Hello, my name is Dr. MarkAlain Dery. I am the Medical Director of Infectious Diseases and Chief Innovation Officer for Access Health Louisiana. You've seen me do these updates now for the past few months in conjunction with the leadership of the ACOI, and I hope these messages are helping you keep up with the latest on COVID-19. I know many of you are in the thick of the fight, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of us who focus daily on infectious diseases for a living, and certainly on behalf of the ACOI. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I serve as the chair for the ACOI Infectious Diseases Subspecialty Section. And as we are facing this once-in-a-lifetime global battle, I want to hear from you, my colleagues who are experiencing the fight from y'all's locations, no matter where you are in the country. So I provide my contact information at the end of each update, so please listen for that. I hope you take me up on this invitation to reach out. Moving forward together with the ACOI, we will continue to share information as it becomes available, as well as some of the hopeful progress that we are seeing. Also, for more information on the ACOI's new peer-to-peer well-being check-in sessions that are available free of charge to ACOI members, please go to the acoi.org/COVID-19 and click on the box so you can find out how you can join in. These Zoom sessions are an awesome way to feel connected and support during this challenging time. Trust me, these are great sessions and worth doing. So, how can we control COVID-19 in 28 days? So this was an op-ed that I wrote, and I want to share some of my thoughts from the article that just was published on my interpretation of how we can control COVID-19 in 28 days. And my proposition is that everyone on the planet, 7.7 billion people, everyone on the planet needs to coordinate and wear masks for 28 days, which are essentially 2 cycles of the viral incubation period of 14 days. Now you see, I've looked at the countries that have lower transmission rates, and when you compare those with higher rates of transmission, if you were to single one thing out that is making the difference, it's this, and that is wearing masks, right? So the thing we need is herd immunity, right? Obviously, but that can only be achieved by transmission through a non-immune population or through an effective vaccine. But the first option would mean that an unacceptable amount of preventable deaths would occur. The second, the vaccine may take years of development and then time to inoculate a population of billions, 7.7 billion. Since masks, right, block respiratory droplets emitted when someone talks, sneezes, coughs, yells, or sings, blocking these droplets is key, right? Controlling the virus at the source of the exit, right, has the potential to significantly decrease likelihood of transmission to the point that the virus cannot sustain itself. And without a circulating virus, there's no pandemic, right? Masks up, COVID down, okay? And if you think like a virus, as an infectious diseases doctor like myself would, you have to remember that the existential purpose of a virus, yes, I think about the existential purpose of the virus. The existential purpose of the virus is to replicate its genes in a host, make copies of itself, and then infect a new host, and over and over. Or to make it real simple, I say wash, rinse, repeat until you have a pandemic. And this is the fundamental premise of any viral outbreak. The virus is genetically programmed to replicate and infect person after person. Once the last person has been infected and the virus has run out of people to infect, it literally vanishes and herd immunity has been achieved. An example of mass working that came out this week was a salon transmission that occurred with 2 workers who came to work after the salon had been closed and then just opened. They were symptomatic for COVID-19. They shouldn't have gone to work. Of course, I understand that they probably had bills to pay, but they went to work. They both ended up testing positive for COVID-19, but that was after they had contact with about 140 clients and 6 colleagues or coworkers, right? After the 14-day cycle or incubation period, of COVID-19 had passed, and they again had contact traced and tested everybody. All 140 contacts plus 6 coworkers, a total of 146, ended up testing negative for COVID-19. And that was largely, if not almost entirely, because the stylists wore masks and the clients wore masks as well. Now, they did also have their chairs that were separated by 6 feet, and they did stagger their appointments as well. But what this essentially shows is that this is the evidence that essentially proves that a physical barrier of a mask is effective. Remember, this was indoors. It's the highest risk of transmission occurs indoors. But I'm just not necessarily relying on that theory alone for this recommendation. Weakening the ability of a virus to transmit to new hosts has worked extremely effectively in the past. During the 1990s, the HIV epidemic was devastating Brazil, so much so that the World Bank estimated 1.2 million cases by the year 2000. Through an intensive condom education campaign, by the end of 2003, the number had grown by less than 1% to 660,000 people. The spread of the HIV virus was mostly halted due to condoms, interrupting its ability to transmit from person to person. And my favorite story is in the 1840s in Austria, almost 20% of women were dying of childbirth, and Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis implemented a new policy requiring doctors to wash their hands before delivering babies. Right, wash your hands, right? They didn't do that in those days. And as a result, the mortality for women in childbirth dropped to 2%. Hand washing is such a simple step. It has saved millions of lives. We recognize it now not only as a common sense activity in our modern day, but one we wouldn't even question the validity of. And that's how we need to think about mask wearing. Common sense. And I propose that we practice it. Just to also recognize that some of the most effective public health measures that have been successful over the years have been very, very simple, right? Washing your hands. John Snow, who interrupted the cholera outbreak in the 1860s in London, did so by removing the pump handle off of the pump at the Broad Street pump. At that time, it was not known that the cholera was transmitted through water, but John Snow had recognized that people who got their water from the Broad Street pump had cholera. Those were the families that had cases of cholera. These are the days before indoor plumbing. It's so important that it's the simple things that we do in public health that can be so effective. Hand washing, removing a pump handle off of a pump, or if we could have everybody mask up and eliminate the source of viral transmission right at the exit and trap those respiratory droplets here inside a mask. So that was my op-ed. We'll have a link of it copied to the reference section below. So please stay on the lookout for our regular updates. And to read more from the sources that were used in this report, you can go to the acoi.org/COVID-19. And together with the ACOI, we'll help you have the latest information to help you respond to your patients and stay on top of the crisis. Also, please feel free to reach out to me at madery@mac.com. Please stay safe. We can do this together.